my name's Lindsay. In today's video we're going to be painting some really fun donuts. These are ideal for beginners, so if you are a beginner, grab your paints, paint along with me, or just sit there with a cup of tea and enjoy learning how to paint these donuts. And then if you feel that you've got the confidence, grab your paints a little bit later on and have a go at these. These are so much fun to do. I'll be using a 100% cotton paper today, and this is cold pressed paper. Using something circular like a cup or a small bowl, draw around the edges of that item. So I'm actually using a lid to my coffee jar, and I'm going to start drawing around the circular shape to create these lovely donut shapes. Some of them I am going to use in the corner of the paper, and some of them I'm going to overlap along the edge of the paper as well, so that not the whole of the circle is being drawn. Then I'm going to roughly draw the middle of the donuts, and I'm drawing them freehand because I want them to be a little bit more irregular shaped. Now I'm going to drop in a nice watery wash of some permanent rose, and I'm going to drop this into this corner donut here. So I'm carefully following around the outside shape of the donut. I do want that donut to be nice and smooth on the outside. Now I'm using a damp brush to take off some highlights. So I'm just using a lifting technique with my damp brush to create that lovely sort of moist and shiny look that a donut has. If you can hear anything in the background, it's just started pouring down outside. So I do apologise if you can hear rain in the background. Now I'm using some very diluted cerulean blue, and I'm going to paint in this donut here, being very careful again to paint carefully around the edges of the donut to make that donut lovely and round and smooth on the edges. Now I've got some green on my brush, and I think this was Hooker's Green Dark. So I'm painting on a nice diluted wash of this as well. You want to keep the first layer nice and diluted and very watery, and make it nice and even as well. You don't want any puddles forming. And then use your damp brush to take off a few highlights to make that donut look nice and glistening and moist and yummy to eat. Now I've got dioxazine violet on my brush, and I'm doing the same thing with this donut. This colour was Viridian Green. It's a lovely intense green, but of course use your own colours. You don't have to follow the same colours that I'm using, so make up your own piece. You don't even have to use multicolours if you don't want to. You could always do all reds or all pinks and just vary the colour. For instance, you could do alizarin crimson, a permanent rose, opera rose, and just vary the red or pink shades. This colour in the corner was alizarin crimson, which is one of my favourite colours actually. So I'm just using a damp brush to take off some of these highlights at the top in this donut here. Once that first layer on every donut has dried, take your clean water and paint that clean water all over the donut, but don't paint over that middle circle that you've put down. Try to leave that blank. And now I'm going to start dropping in some more pigment. So I'm going to use the same colour again. So what colour did I say this was? I can't remember now. It's more of a turquoise colour, or a Hooker's Green, I think it might have been. I'm just going to drop in slightly more pigmented paint. So that means it's got less water mixed into it and a bit more paint. So it's a bit darker. And I'm going to drop this onto the paper while the paper is still wet. So you're getting a lovely soft and blurred out effect where it blends out within the donut, but you're also getting that darker marking. Now I've got darker paint again, so I've added more paint to this, and I'm going to drop it in around that inner circle, so you get that shadow around the inner circle, so it kind of looks like the donut is dipping inwards. It makes the donut look a bit more 3D then. I'm going to paint some of those markings into the middle of the donut, but I'm following the shape of the donut. So curve your shapes and lines around with the donut, follow the shape of it, and that will help the donut to look really curved. I'm also going to take some of that really dark colour onto the outer edge of the donut as well, but you can see I'm taking more care along that pencil edge to make sure it's nice and smooth. I'm going to do the same with the Viridian Green donut, so I'm just wetting it with some clean water. I'm taking that slightly more pigmented paint and dropping it around the insides, the middle and the outer edges. And then I'm taking my very dark paint and I'm going to just paint a very thin line around the middle and also the outer edge as well to really darken that outer edge up. And you can see that I'm making this quite irregular, and that is to give that donut a bit more of a curved shape and make it look a bit more organic, really, and a bit more rounded. I'm just using a damp brush here to blend out some of those edges because I felt they were a bit harsh. My paper did start drying on me a little bit. I've got some clean water on the cerulean blue now, so I'm going to paint that all over the donut just like we did on the other donuts. And I'm going to speed this up a little bit for you in a minute because we are just going to use the same technique on the other 3 or 4 donuts, and then we will move on a little bit now to add in detail. So if I just speed this up a little bit for you and just enjoy the process of watching me paint. I'm going to add some reflected colour from the donut next to this now. So I am painting onto the wet paper, and I'm painting a little bit of alizarin crimson onto this side of the donut. I'm going to take a variety of coloured markers, paint pens, and also coloured pencils now. So these are my paint pens, and I'm going to take a few different colours of these. I did get these from Amazon, and I'm also going to use my uni ball. This is a white gel pen. I've got a Caran d'Ache white pencil, and I've also got my Prismacolor coloured pencils, and also some white gouache as well. I've also got some white gouache in my Arteza set, so I'll link these down below for you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with my white paint pens. These are brilliant, and I'm just going to create these little swirls. Then I'm going to use some dots on this donut. Be really random with this. You don't have to follow along with me and copy exactly what I'm doing. But I'm going to use my paint pens to create these little sprinkles on this donut. So now I'm using my white gel pen to create some thinner lines on this donut here, just to create a bit of thick, a bit of thin, to swap up the variety there. And now I've got my blue and green gouache, and I'm just using the edge of a paintbrush to create these little sprinkles. Next, I'm going to use my Prismacolor coloured pencils to create these little hearts with the pink, and I'm going to vary the shades of pink as well. So here's my finished piece, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know if you followed along with me and you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a lovely day and happy painting as well.